These are amongst the very worst crimes which have come before the High Court of Justiciary.
This is probably one of the most horrific cases that I and my team have been involved in. The National Crime Agency described this as a once-in-a-generation crime, and I sincerely hope that no one else sees this ever again.
You murdered an innocent woman and her 2-year-old daughter in a situation where they had trusted you. You are sentenced to life imprisonment.
She is very much missed by the family.
On February 23rd, 2021, inside a house in Dundee, something horrific happens in the kitchen. A young woman is attacked. She's hit in the head with a hammer. And then a long knife is used. A 7-year-old child sees all of it, every second. Her body is wrapped in construction bags, in tarp, in a blanket. The floor is taken apart. Concrete is broken. A cavity beneath the kitchen is prepared in advance. Like, this wasn't random, this was planned. There is still a 2-year-old child in the house. She's alive. She remains there for several days after the attack. During those days, sexual abuse takes place. Then there is another death, and another body is hidden beneath the same floor. A 25-year-old woman had come to the United Kingdom from the Philippines. On February 20th, she stops responding to messages, just silence. On March 1st, the woman and the 2 children are officially reported missing. And on March 5th, police arrive at the house, and what they see in front of them is absolutely horrifying.
These are amongst the very worst crimes which have come before the High Court of Justiciary.
This is probably one of the most horrific cases that I and my team have been involved in. The National Crime Agency described this as a once-in-a-generation crime, and I sincerely hope that no one else sees this ever again.
This isn't some random killing. This is cold calculation. Systematic lies and violence that started with an online relationship. I'm telling you right now, this story will bring you to tears. It's heavy, it's disturbing, it stays with you. But let's go back to the very beginning, okay? Let's start from the start so you can walk through this story with me step by step. 25-year-old Bennylyn Aquino was originally from the Philippines. She was incredibly popular, just a warm, genuine person that everybody loved. Her sister, Shella, said she honestly didn't know a single person who didn't like Bennylyn. Bennylyn really wanted an education. Shella worked to support her while she was studying, and their father, Benedicto, later said the whole family came together to make sure she could finish school. She was described as smart, kind, beautiful, dependable. She loved her family deeply. Her brother remembered how she used to protect him from bullies, like she was that kind of sister. In 2015, she met a British man named Lexington Burke on a dating website. Their relationship moved quickly. After he traveled to the Philippines, the two of them had a large wedding in Samar on July 28, 2018. Just a month later, on August 19th, their first child was born, a baby girl named Jellica. After Jellica's first birthday, the family moved to the United Kingdom. This was the first time Bennylyn had ever left the Philippines. She believed a brighter future was waiting for her in the United Kingdom. She worked hard there and regularly sent money back home to support her family. That part really shows you who she was. Sadly, by the end of 2020, the marriage began to fall apart. Bennylyn moved into temporary housing, a ground floor apartment in Kingswood, about 3 miles from Bristol. In that social housing complex, she became friends with other residents, including a group called Mums in Bath. These women helped her out bringing food, essentials, checking in on her. Members of the group visited, and so did friends from Bristol. People genuinely wanted to surround her with care and support as much as they could. Despite the separation, Bennylyn and Lexington agreed on a custody arrangement for Jellica. Then, in late February 2021, Lexington tried several times to contact Bennylyn, but got no response. She didn't reply to his text messages. She didn't answer her phone. He even left a note in her mailbox. Still nothing. Social services also reached out to him asking if he had heard from her. They hadn't been able to contact her either, and she had missed a scheduled appointment. And that was completely unlike her. By that point, he was extremely concerned. So on March 1st, 2021, he contacted the police. Bennylyn, Jellica, and another child, a 7-year-old girl, were officially reported missing. All right, you guys, before we continue with this story, I just want to take about 15 seconds of your time really quick. If you can, please support the channel with your activity. It honestly helps more than you think. Pause for just a moment, drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from and what the weather's like where you are. I love seeing where you're all tuning in from. It makes us feel real, like we're all here together. And if you feel like it, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe. Okay. Let's continue. It's important to clarify something here. In the official case materials, a 7-year-old girl is mentioned, but later sources reported that this was actually Bennylyn's older daughter. Her name and any identifying details about her have not been made public. By law, she cannot be identified, and every possible step must be taken to protect her identity. So throughout this episode, she will be referred to as Jane Doe. Avon and Somerset police launched an investigation, and pretty quickly they picked up a lead. It was established that the vehicle seen around the time of their disappearance first traveled into Gloucestershire and then continued north, crossing the border into Scotland. CCTV cameras captured the driver while he was refueling at a gas station. Detectives contacted Police Scotland for assistance in locating the vehicle. The car was registered to a man named Andrew Innes. He had driven down from Dundee to pick them up. Now, despite the time difference between the Philippines and the United Kingdom, Shella and Bennylyn always made time for each other. They talked regularly, they stayed close. On Thursday, February 18th, just before they disappeared, Bennylyn was on a video call with her sister. She was sitting in Andrew's car. All of them were driving to Scotland together. Shella asked to see him. Bennylyn flipped the camera around and showed the man behind the wheel. There were no travel bags, no packed luggage. It was obvious this wasn't meant to be some long trip. A few days after Bennylyn arrived in Scotland, Shella started to worry. Bennylyn had stopped replying to messages. On Saturday, February 20th, knowing that Bennylyn was with Andrew, Shella sent him 2 messages. "Good afternoon, sir. What happened to my sister?" The next day, she finally got a reply. "It's a long story, but don't worry, she's fine." Shella immediately wrote back. "What happened to my sister, sir? Please tell me." Andrew responded, "I met her on a dating site. We talked for a long time. Then I went to see her." "Where is she now?" Shella asked. "She's in Glasgow. She didn't tell me her full story before. I only found everything out last weekend. I thought she was already divorced." Apparently, she wasn't 100% honest with me about that. He went on to say that he had left them at a cafe in Glasgow with another man, someone she had met online, a man Andrew claimed he didn't know. According to him, Bennylyn had wanted to hide at his house because Lexington was trying to gain custody of Jellica and was pushing to have Bennylyn deported from the country. He reassured Shella that Bennylyn was safe. He even said he advised her to get rid of her phone if she wanted to avoid attention from authorities. At that point, Shella was desperate. She begged him to let her speak to her sister, and then he replied, "I think she'll contact you herself when she gets settled." The messages between them continued for quite a while. Shella wrote again, "Sir, please tell me, is my sister alive?" Andrew replied, "Scotland is a very peaceful country. There's almost no crime here. Please don't worry. I'm sure your sister is completely safe." 4 days later, Shella reached out again. He told her that the other man from the cafe had messaged him, saying they were settling into a new place. And he added, "She's happy she met a good man, and she's incredibly relieved knowing her child won't be taken away from her." Andrew then said he wanted to close this chapter. He claimed he would erase all his data from his devices, not just to protect himself, but to protect her, so that police wouldn't be able to find her if they searched his home. Shella begged him to send a video of Bennylyn, just to prove she was alive and safe. He sent her a recording. "I hope we can talk again someday, sir," she wrote. "Maybe one day. when everything calms down," he replied. But the video he sent? It was old. At 3:20 p.m. on March 5th, officers were dispatched to 21 Troon Avenue. That was the address where the vehicle was registered the home of 50-year-old Andrew Innes. The car was parked outside. Next to the house was a construction dumpster filled with various items. Inside the container were mattresses and striatal debris like renovation waste. When officers knocked, Andrew Innes opened the door only slightly. They spoke to him right there on the threshold. He refused to let them in. He claimed he was self-isolating and that his daughter had just gotten out of the bath and needed to get dressed. But through the gap in the door, officers saw Jane Doe. She was fully clothed, standing inside. Something felt off, deeply off. They insisted on entering the home. Once inside, they described the property as being in complete disarray. It looked like renovations were underway, kitchen utensils were piled on the stairs, the stove and kitchen cabinets had been removed. In the living room, Jane Doe was sitting and watching cartoons. One of the officers spoke with her. She confirmed that Andrew was not her father. They were not related in any way. During questioning, Andrew Innes stated that he had driven Bennylyn and Jellica to Glasgow and left them at a cafe with an unknown man. He claimed he had not seen them since. Police didn't buy it, not for a second. They knew they had to dig deeper to get to the truth. And what he said next completely stunned the officers. "I killed her. She's under the floor. We had an argument, and I killed her." "And where is Jellica?" they asked him. "Under the floor with her mom. I couldn't take care of the child. She was crying." After that shocking confession, Andrew Innes was arrested and taken into custody. Jane Doe was also removed from the home and placed somewhere safe. The next day, on March 6th, he was formally charged with the murders of Bennylyn and Jellica. Now, police had to find their bodies. As news of the horrific crime began to spread, local residents left flowers and toys on Troon Avenue in memory of Bennylyn and Jellica. While the search for the bodies continued, investigators slowly reconstructed the timeline. Bennylyn had been using a dating site called Filipino Cupid, looking for support and a relationship. That's where she met 50-year-old Andrew Innes. At first, their communication was casual, simple messages that later turned into video calls. Over time, he began steering the conversation in a different direction. He asked her to send an intimate photo. She refused. Then he offered her a job, a position as a public relations manager, and promised to pay her to work for him. He also said he would provide her with housing. She replied, "If you want to hire me, I can work in Bristol." On February 12th, they arranged to meet. After the meeting was scheduled, Andrew Innes carried out several internet searches: the murder rate in Scotland, what chloroform is used for, and how to create a storage space beneath a floor. Despite strict COVID-19 travel restrictions, he drove from Dundee to England to meet her in Kingswood, traveling more than 400 miles. She felt sorry for him because he was sleeping in his car. He couldn't check into a hotel, and he wasn't allowed to stay at her housing. She had always wanted to see Scotland and its beauty, so she agreed to travel with him and spend the weekend at his home. Several photos were taken of Bennylyn and Jellica in Dundee, sightseeing around the city. There were also photos of Andrew Innes. On February 23rd, he was seen purchasing gravel and do-it-yourself tools. The following day, a construction dumpster was delivered to the house. The task facing investigators was enormous. Forensic teams were brought in, along with anthropologists, archaeologists, and geologists, to determine whether his confession was true. It took police 2 weeks to excavate the house, and they discovered that Andrew Innes had not been lying. Approximately 3 feet beneath the floor, the bodies of Jellica and Bennylyn were buried. The bodies were found on March 19th. In the Philippines, Shella received a phone call. It was Lexington, Bennylyn's estranged husband. She could not believe what she was hearing. She was the one who had to deliver the devastating news to their parents, who lived in another part of the country. Completely traumatized by the deaths of her sister and niece, she couldn't sleep. She kept trying to message Bennylyn on Messenger. Bennylyn's devastated brother later posted on social media, "We've missed you so much since you left the Philippines, sis. I remember how we used to play and how you'd make me dance. You always made us happy. We will never forget you. As police continued examining Andrew Innes's background, they discovered that the software developer had no prior criminal record. He was born in Germany in 1970 on a military base. At 24, he moved from Derby to Dundee and worked with DMA design on various video games after studying at the University of Aberdeen. Later, he married a woman from Japan and moved there to live with her. The couple had 3 children for a period of time. They also lived in California before eventually returning to Scotland. In 2019, the marriage broke down. He was deported from Japan back to the United Kingdom, separated from his wife and children. Andrew Innes was registered on 34 dating websites. And that was only part of what investigators uncovered. He was highly skilled with technology. He had created what's known as a scraper tool software that could be connected to different websites. Using it, he filtered profiles so that only women with young children would appear in his search results. He collected that data and entered it into a spreadsheet, rating women based on age, weight, height, and whether they had small children. The highest scores were given to women in their mid to late 20s who had young kids. After the bodies of Bennylyn and Jellica were found, autopsies were carried out. The findings revealed a horrifying truth. Bennylyn had suffered severe head injuries and internal bleeding. She had also been stabbed in the chest. It is believed she was killed on February 23rd, the same day CCTV captured him purchasing do-it-yourself tools and gravel. Detective Constable Paul Hardy asked Innes how long she had been buried beneath the floor. Innes replied, "She arrived last Friday. We were supposed to spend the weekend together. I saw that she was messaging about 50 men on her phone. That was on Monday or Tuesday. It took me some time to break through the concrete." He insisted it wasn't planned. According to him, an argument broke out between them. "We argued. She came at me. I started defending myself, and now she's dead. It wasn't premeditated. She attacked me with a sushi knife." But CCTV footage completely destroyed that version of events. He was captured at a B&Q hardware store on King's Cross Road in Dundee, where he purchased a hammer, the same hammer he later used to beat her to death. He claimed he killed her in self-defense, saying he feared for his life. Later, his story changed. He said he had experienced an auditory hallucination, but investigators uncovered a very different sequence of events. It is believed that Bennylyn was standing in the kitchen preparing food when he attacked her, striking her multiple times in the head with the hammer. After that, he went to his office, retrieved a long-bladed knife, which Innes described as a samurai sword, returned to the kitchen and stabbed her. He also struck her with the handle of the blade and again with the hammer. All of this happened in front of 7-year-old Jane Doe. After killing Bennylyn, he wrapped her body in construction bags, tarp, and a blanket and concealed her beneath the kitchen floor. Over the next 2 to 3 days after Bennylyn's murder, he kept Jellica alive and sexually abused her. He later killed her by compressing her neck and covering her mouth. He wrapped her naked body in construction bags and placed her beneath the floor next to her mother. He said, "She wanted her mom. It seemed logical to put her with her." His DNA was found on her body. The DNA of Jellica and Innes was also discovered on a condom recovered from a trash bin inside the house. After the murders, he told Jane Doe that Bennylyn and Angelica were in the hospital. That was why they weren't home. Officers who interviewed him later stated that he displayed self-pity and showed no remorse for his crimes. An investigator spoke with Jane Doe. She explained that Andrew Innes had what she described as a heavy hammer and that he hit Bennylyn on the head with it. "I tried to call the police. I couldn't speak." She said that at the time of Jellica's murder, they had been playing hide and seek. "I don't know where. I only remember I was looking in the bathroom and he closed the door in front of me. Andrew closed the door in front of me, so it must have been in the bathroom. I was supposed to save them, but I couldn't because I didn't understand what was happening." During her time in that house, she endured a horrific series of rapes and sexual assaults. She said that after the attacks, during which she was handcuffed and gagged, he gave her money. On one occasion, it was £2.10. She described how he kept her captive. Andrew tied a rope to the door and secured it to another door so I couldn't open it. He only untied it when he came back. I told him, I want to go with you, because that was my chance to get out. Andrew denied the allegations of sexual abuse against Jane Doe. After his arrest, during questioning on March 5th, in a cold interview room, under the recording of cameras and audio devices, he said, I never touched that girl. His voice was calm, almost steady, no shaking, no visible fear. It was a direct, clear denial, no pauses, no hesitation in his wording. But it was DNA that exposed him. Not emotions, not words, cold, undeniable science. DNA traces were found on clothing and on the handcuffs. Physical evidence that cannot be persuaded or intimidated. Evidence that does not confuse memories and does not change its version of events. Jane Doe was also diagnosed with chlamydia. Andrew Innes had chlamydia as well. That connection could not be explained as coincidence. It became another link in the chain of evidence, another piece tying him to what he continued to deny. The trial of Andrew Innes began at the High Court of Justiciary in Edinburgh on January 31st, 2023, presided over by Lord Beckett. The atmosphere in the courtroom was tense. Every word felt heavy. Every detail landed like a blow. Andrew admitted that he killed Jellica and Bennylyn, but he denied murder in the legal sense, claiming diminished responsibility. He tried to convince the court that his mental state reduced his level of accountability, that this was not cold intent, but a distorted reaction. He also denied charges of attempting to pervert the course of justice and of rape. Even while admitting the killings, he continued to dispute the other, equally serious charges. On the third day of the trial, he changed his version again. A different tone, a different explanation. Now, he claimed he had become, in his words, apocalyptically angry because he believed Bennylyn resembled both his former partner and his estranged wife at the same time. From the neck down, she looked like my estranged wife. From the neck up, she looked like my former partner. His words seemed to hang in the air. They sounded strange, almost unreal. But that was how he tried to explain what happened. He said his former partner had left him in the worst possible way, ending the relationship through a text message, and that he thought,
I kept thinking about all the awful things my wife did to me, and I got angry. The way she treated me, I was furious. I started having crazy thoughts. I remember stabbing her while she was already on the floor, and then I just kept hitting her until she stopped moving. It's clear that he harbored resentment toward his former partners, and this woman in front of him, in some way, reminded him of them. He became angry, and it was an uncontrolled rage.
He explained to the jury that, at first, Innes spoke about self-defense during the attack. Later, he described an internal monologue, a voice that seemed to encourage him to harm the woman, while he himself kept repeating, "She hasn't done anything wrong." According to the doctor, it is very difficult to say with certainty whether Mr. Innes was experiencing psychotic symptoms at that time. Innes had previously been diagnosed with Crohn's disease, a condition that led to his hospitalization in February 2021 at Ninewells Hospital on the outskirts of Dundee. He was prescribed steroids to help manage his symptoms. Defense attorney Brian McConaughey asked Dr. Cowan whether Innes could have experienced steroid-induced psychosis, since Innes claimed he had been legally insane due to the medication. He had been prescribed 40 milligrams per day, but the court heard that in the days leading up to the murders, he had taken a higher dose. However, the fact that he purchased a hammer at B&Q did not align with the theory of psychosis. Dr. Cowan stated that if someone were in such a severe psychotic state that they committed murder, they would not be functioning so normally in everyday life that no one noticed anything unusual. There is logic in his thinking, and for that reason, I do not believe this indicates a psychotic state. He emphasized that, although psychosis is a rare side effect of steroids, in the previous 12 months, not a single patient within NHS Tayside had experienced such an episode. Most of his colleagues, he added, had never encountered it in their entire careers. Dr. Cowan met with Innes in September 2021 at the prison. By that point, Innes had spoken with relatives and learned about the possibility of steroid-induced psychosis. It was the first time he had heard of the condition, and he began to believe it might explain what had happened. Dr. Cowan also explained that some specialists had considered the possibility of an autism spectrum disorder diagnosis. However, the judge later noted that this did not make him prone to violence and did not reduce his responsibility. One of the most painful moments of the trial was the presentation of a pre-recorded interview with Jane Doe. Andrew killed Jellica when we were playing hide and seek. She added that she did not understand what was happening. She described in detail the horrific sexual abuse she endured. The evidence was so distressing that jurors were offered psychological support to help them cope with what they had seen and heard. Regarding the charges involving Jane Doe, Innes claimed she was lying, saying parts of her account didn't add up. He argued that he would not have used a sock to gag her, as she stated, because there were hundreds of other more suitable things. If I had wanted to gag that child, I would have used a proper gag. Innes also told the jury that if police had arrived at his house 24 hours later, they might have found her body lying next to Bennylyn and Angelica. After 5 days of proceedings, both the prosecution and the defense concluded their arguments. Taking all the evidence into account, Lord Beckett directed the jury to find him guilty on both charges of murder. After only 2.5 hours of deliberation, the jury returned with their verdict. Andrew Innes was guilty. In addition to the murders, he was also convicted of rape and sexual assault. Andrew Innes was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 36 years to be served before he can even be considered for parole.
You murdered an innocent woman and her 2-year-old daughter in a situation where they had trusted you and travelled with you from Bristol to your home in Dundee. These are amongst the very worst crimes which have come before the High Court of Justiciary. Considering the whole circumstances, the punishment part on the 2 charges of murder will be one of 36 years, backdated to 8th March 2021. This does not mean that this is a sentence of 36 years. You are sentenced to life imprisonment, and you will serve at least 36 years before you can be considered for release on parole. It will be for the parole board to determine whether you will ultimately be released, and they will consider the safety of the public in reaching that decision.
In almost 30 years of policing, the level of depravity shown by Andrew Innes is way beyond anything myself or my colleagues had witnessed before. Not only did he callously take the life of a young mother and innocent child, he then sought to escape justice by burying their bodies beneath his kitchen floor. He showed no regard for human life or for the remorse or suffering that he's brought to their loved ones. I'd like to end by thanking the family of Bennylyn and Jellica for their courage they've shown throughout what's been a horrific ordeal, and I hope this conviction in some way helps to bring them a degree of closure. Thank you very much.
This is probably one of the most horrific cases that I and my team have been involved in, and it's to credit to everyone involved with the commitment and professionalism they showed to secure justice for Bennylyn and Jellica. The National Crime Agency described this as a once-in-a-generation crime, and I sincerely hope that no one else sees this ever again.
Bennylyn's family traveled from the Philippines to the United Kingdom to be present at the trial. It was a long journey, not just physically, but emotionally. They crossed thousands of miles, left their home behind, all to sit in that courtroom, to personally hear the verdict, to look into the eyes of the man responsible for their loss, to feel that the truth would finally be spoken out loud. In their statement, they said that what happened was the most brutal thing they could have ever imagined, the worst possible scenario, something that even in their nightmares felt impossible. They said these horrific crimes will follow them for the rest of their lives, not like a memory that slowly fades, but like a wound that never truly heals. For them, this was never just a court case. It's a shattered family, empty seats at the table, voices that will never be heard again. And the shadow of what happened will stay with them forever in every holiday, every quiet evening, every thought of home.
She is very much missed by the family.
Their loss incomprehensible to relatives in the Philippines. Brutal deaths that haunt a sister searching for answers. Her words translated by a friend.
So Shella is saying that in the last 2 years, it's been very difficult coping. They were in shock and traumatized by the fact that they couldn't understand why it happened.
He showed no remorse, wallowed in self-pity. The depravity that he's shown is unimaginable.
Do you think you'll ever be able to forgive Andrew Innes after this?
She said she can forgive him, but as long as he's behind bars and will not be able to come out.
Benedicto, Bennylyn's father, was completely devastated by the loss of his daughter and granddaughter. This wasn't just grief. It was devastation that ate away at him from the inside. The pain was so overwhelming that he could no longer work. Ordinary tasks lost their meaning. The days blurred into one long, heavy fog. His life split into before and after. And in that after, there was no joy, no peace, just a constant ache that never really quiets down. For Lexington, what happened to Bennylyn and Jellica was a crushing blow. He spoke openly about his anger, about the rage that rose in him every time he thought about the cruelty Jellica suffered at the hands of Innes. His words carried weight. They were filled with pain. He couldn't accept that a small child had endured that kind of fear, that kind of violence, that kind of brutal death. It wasn't just the anger of a father, it was the anger of someone confronting the scale of injustice and finding no explanation for it. Later, it was confirmed that Andrew Innes intends to appeal both his conviction and his sentence. His appeal has been filed with the High Court of Criminal Appeal in Edinburgh. That means the case will return to a courtroom. The same names will be spoken again, the same facts, the same unbearable details. The hearing will take place at a later date. No application for bail has been made pending the appeal, and he remains in prison, behind bars, in the silence of a cell, far from the outside world, which has already delivered its moral judgment. Jim Gamble, CEO of the Unique Safeguarding Group and former head of the Child Exploitation and Online Protection Center, stated that it would be unusual for a perpetrator like Innes not to have had prior victims. His words carried a chilling implication. They suggested the possibility of an unknown past, shadows that may have gone unnoticed. Because in his experience, crimes like this rarely appear out of nowhere. They have a history, and that thought leaves a cold feeling, the sense that the story we know may only be part of something much darker.
I doubt these were his only victims. Some people may not even realize how close they came to crossing paths with this terrible individual. We constantly see predators targeting single mothers not just for manipulation and control, but to gain access to young children. Anyone who knows him, or knows anything about him, should really reflect on what they might know. I'm sure the police are doing exactly that.
Police Scotland reported that they contacted law enforcement agencies in every country he was known to have traveled to. They reviewed travel routes, reopened old contacts, analyzed every trip, every possible lead. They also worked with Interpol, trying to determine whether there was something more behind this story, whether there had been similar crimes, whether he had left a trail somewhere else. But despite all the checks, despite international coordination and information sharing, no other crimes were identified. No additional cases, no new charges. Only this tragedy. Just one, but devastating enough to permanently shatter several lives. Bennylyn's father said he cries every single day. Every day, no exceptions. He still cannot accept what happened. For him, this is not a closed chapter, not something that can be placed in the past and learned to live with. It's a pain that returns every morning with the light. For me, I still haven't come to terms with the fact that they're no longer here. In his words, there isn't just sorrow, there's denial. It's like his heart refuses to believe what his mind already knows. Like somewhere deep inside, there's still a fragile hope that this is a nightmare he'll wake up from. The family also launched a campaign in support of the charity Kanlungen, which helps people from the Philippines living in the United Kingdom, especially those trapped in domestic abuse situations, far from home, without support, without loved ones nearby. For the family, it became a way to turn unbearable pain into action, into something that might protect someone else. Benedicto said, "I have decided to dedicate my life to protecting the rights of women and children." That decision didn't come from a speech. It came from loss. From the realization that silence can cost too much, that indifference can be just as deadly as violence. All Bennylyn ever wanted was to love and to be loved. A simple human desire. She made an incredibly brave decision to leave her home, leave her familiar life, and move to a foreign country in hopes of a brighter future. She believed the risk was worth it. That ahead of her was a new beginning, new opportunities, a safer life. To this day, Shella still calls her sister's phone number, just to hear her voice on voicemail. A few seconds of recording an illusion of presence, that brief hello becomes the only way, even for a moment, to bring back what can never truly return. She said she will never forget Bennylyn or Jellica, because memory is all she has left. They will always be with her, wherever she goes. In every decision, every single day, I will always be with them. Friends, I truly want to thank each and every one of you for staying with me all the way to the end of this video. This story is incredibly heavy, it's painful, and I want to be completely honest with you. While I was preparing this material, going over the details again and again, trying to piece everything together into one clear narrative, there were moments when tears just rolled down my face. Some parts were especially hard to process, really hard, but I felt it was important to tell this story exactly as it is. Not softer, not simplified, just the truth. Please don't forget to leave a comment under this video. It genuinely matters to me to know what you're thinking, what you felt after watching. If this story touched you, you can subscribe to my channel and like this video. It takes just a few seconds for you, but for my channel, it's real support and it truly helps it grow. Once again, thank you so much for your time, your attention, and your trust. Take care of yourselves, take care of the people you love, and I'll see you in the next video.